All right, and we are live. Okay. All right. So, looking forward to a very interesting conversation today with our research panel. As usual, I'm going to ask and invite everyone as you are popping on to put your name and your state or country in the comments. So, we're going to give it about a minute before we get started. Also, just want to remind everyone that if you're watching and it's after 1:40 p.m. Eastern, you're going to be hashtag team replay. And we promise that we will continue to answer questions even after the broadcast is over. So as you're logging on, we just want to have you put your state or country in the comments so we can say hi to you. And we are also going to be looking forward to your questions today. So state and whoever is on first. I know there's 4 of you at least right now watching on the LinkedIn. So if you're watching, we'd love to know who you are, and to have you put your name and your state or your country in the comments. And I see other folks coming on as well. So as you're popping in, I'm going to keep repeating myself. To put your name and your state or your country in the comments. We'd love to say hello to you before we get started with our research panel. Research panel, how are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome. Good. Ready for the live?
We are.
Yeah.
Always taking it live. Yeah.
I know you guys are ready. So we'll just do one more minute and then I will see. Okay. So far, we only have esports. We only have our esports team saying hello. So we're going to wait a little bit more and until one brave person. Okay. Hi, Fred. Fred from OKC. Thank you for joining us, Fred. We will. Hi, Ethan from South Dakota. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being bold and brave and adding your name to the list. We'll wait for one more brave soul and then we're going to get started. So Fred and Ethan, thank you for being the first to go. All right, anyone else want to put their name in and their state or country? We'd love to know who's watching and just so we can say hello. So we'll give it like another 30 seconds and then we're going to jump off. Facebook, same thing over there. If you're watching on the Facebook side, please know that we also see your comments as well. All right, so until someone else gets brave, I'm going to get started because it's now 1:03. We're 3 minutes in. So hello again, Ben, Bobby, and Alexis. How are you guys doing again? You guys doing good today? Hi, Zach. Hey, Zach. We all know and love Zach, right?
Certainly do. What's up, man? Doing great, Sharon. How are you?
Doing good. So Ben, because you were the ones that said, hey, doing great, I'm going to have you first introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us who you are. And obviously it says Ben YouGov, but we want to know a little bit more about who Ben is. And we want to say, introduce yourself if you could.
Sure. Keep it brief. My name is Ben, based out of Brooklyn. And yeah, I work for YouGov. I think we'll go a little bit deeper into what YouGov is in a moment, but at high level, we're an international market research and analytics firm helping brands understand the best way to navigate and spread their message to the audience that they want to reach. More and more, we are partnering with brands that are bringing themselves into the esports and gaming space. And then I get to work on measuring those sponsorships and working with teams, agencies, brands directly, kind of running the gambit. So yeah, that's, I think we'll get into more details soon. My background is on the agency side in research, and now I'm in sales at YouGov.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben. And Alexis, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Alexis Prusis. I'm with Blinkfire Analytics. I'm the VP of Marketing. We're based in Chicago and Valencia, Spain. And we are a social media valuation provider. So we value sponsorship exposure across social media, digital, advanced TV for traditional sports, esports, brands, leagues, federations, athletes. We work with agencies as well. And so the esports space is booming, as everyone knows. And so we work with quite a few teams helping to track value and monetize their sponsorships.
That's awesome. Social media, you said valuations or evaluations?
Valuation.
Interesting concept. Bobby, how about you?
Yeah, I'm Bobby Baird. I'm the vice president of customer experience at Stream Hatchet. And Stream Hatchet is a live streaming content insights platform and reporting agency. We measure about 21 live streaming platforms around the world and look at content creators, esports, and increasingly non gaming content that finds its way onto Twitch and other platforms. And we help brands, agencies, teams, video game publishers, really anyone that wants to understand and navigate gaming, kind of activate authentically with these streaming audiences.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Wow. So, I think I confessed to you guys that when I first heard research, right, in the research panel, I thought, gee, that sounds so boring. But then I saw you guys on the at the conference, and I was just so blown away by the tremendous value that research brings to the space. And so my first question is, and I think Alexis touched a little bit on that, and you all pretty much did, but explain to the audience again, just the real value that you guys bring to the space, because there's a lot of value. I mean, Alexis talked about the social media piece, and I mean, you all have your different pieces, but as people are making decisions, right, in the space, whether you're a brand, whether you're a sponsor, tell us how your research helps them, just make these decisions, so to speak.
Sure. I'll kick off. And I think as we'll get into this, you'll see that myself, Alexis, and Bobby, we all touch different areas of measurement when it comes to brand success in esports specifically. But starting at a high level, I mean, the value of research is really to have something to hang your hat on when things go wrong, I think is kind of one way to think about it. Because you need to inform your decisions on more than gut. And having research that insights that inform the right strategic direction, and then measuring the success on that. And in marketing we call it ROI, the return on the investment. What is you're spending a couple $100,000 or millions of dollars to that's your budget for marketing. You have to figure out, all right, what's the best way to spend that to get the most bang for my buck. And research data like at YouGov helps to guide marketers through those decisions, and then go deeper to not just where should we put our brand, but what is the right way to activate our brand in such and such space so that it's going to resonate with the intended audience. So research is paramount. There's a reason that companies like ours are increasingly growing because the investment in data is universal and kind of comes to life in a bunch of different ways. So that's kind of where just to go one step further with how we work with teams, it's helping them paint a picture of who their fans are in context to everything else. So, Team Liquid fans, what do they look like versus other fans of the LCS that makes them unique? And then what does, that look like compared to fans of traditional sports or people who are engaging with traditional, media platforms or other ways where people are spending their time. So providing context and scale is really, I think, point one.
I'll come back to that because you mentioned, how we work with teams. So my question when I come back to you, when I talk about who's your typical client, you're kind of alluding at these teams, but I'll come back to you on that. Alexis, tell us, especially the social media piece, that sounds so intriguing to me. So tell me what are, what kind of value we're talking about here?
Yeah, definitely. So with Blinkfire, we use computer vision and artificial intelligence to track brands exposure. So you've got these esports teams who work with many brands, and they use those brands across their social media, digital, advanced TV. And like Ben said, they want to know their ROI. So these brands are spending money with these teams, and they want to know what type of exposure they're receiving. And that's where Blinkfire comes in. So we track and value that brand exposure to help teams then, whether that's are reporting monthly, quarterly, going through renewals, they come with the data at hand and say, we gave you X number of media value during this activation or throughout a season or throughout a specific esports event that happened last weekend. So it's having that data, and it's that you can defend why your team is a great partner, why you guys should continue working together. And then additionally, there are ways that esports teams can use, Blinkfire and tools to prospect, to find partners that might work with them based on, as Ben was saying, an audience or their value proposition, for instance. So that's where kind of we come into play, and what we're seeing again in the esports space in terms of being able to take those sponsors you're working with and create value for them.
So I'm not trying to get too granular with you because, but it's just so interesting. So let's talk about the valuation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned like a team is doing an activation, or they have a social media presence, or so what is their brand kind of worth is what you're saying, and you're basing that maybe what are you looking at things like followers? Are you looking at views? I mean, how do you guys make that decision? I'm really just curious about it.
Yes, so we have a valuation methodology, and teams can use default valuations. They can customize. They can also use real-time ad rates that we have in our platform. But at its basic level, we take engagements times a specific CPE, so cost per engagement. However, if a team wants to use it based on impressions, it would be the CPM by impressions or video views. So video views times a CPV. And everything is meant to mimic in the sense of how paid social might work, where, a brand is going to run an ad. Well, how much are you willing to spend to get X number of engagements or video views?
Gotcha.
So that's how, at the core, it's kind of working. There's really no black box to it. It's just very transparent. And again, teams can plug in their customized valuations, real-time ad rates, and work that way.
Awesome. Bobby, all right, tell us about your corner of the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and Alexis brought up a good point about like how one of the reasons that, or I guess to start really basically, I look at data as a storytelling tool, because pretty much whoever you are when you're running an activating campaign, you're telling some kind of story, right? It's not just going to be, here are the numbers. It's really about the context and the value that these numbers provide, right? Because I could tell you, the LCS World Finals had 3.9 million viewers at its peak, but what does that mean, right? It's just some number. So kind of where Stream Hatchet enters the mix is we bring the context of what that means from, hey, okay, LCS was had that 3.9 million peak AMA during their World Finals, but what was that as a percent of Twitch viewers, or a percent of YouTube viewers, or percent of just the gaming, the live gaming ecosystem? A great point that Alexis brought up, and really where data is invaluable, is a lot of the brands and agencies that are coming into this space and looking for properties to invest in, particularly teams right now, because teams have a lot of inventory to offer to brands. Is okay, like I'm used to looking at a Nielsen report. I'm used to looking at Google data or Facebook data, digital data from Comscore. How does that fit into live streaming? How does that fit into social? Live streaming is very unique because it's kind of this intersection of television and digital together, right? Because there's a television element where, okay, like I'm watching a live stream, it feels similar to watching like an NFL game, but there's this engagement component where, just like right now, where we have people coming into the chat, engaging with us, asking questions, that's a more valuable CPM than your typical NFL game, even though I guess at its core it should be a more valuable CPM because there's more touch points.
I see.
So where Stream Hatchet really flourishes in that kind of data piece is we really look at like, okay, what's happening? How do I compare this? What's the value that's being generated? And then we'll work with other agencies like Nielsen or YouGov to help them put together either like brand lift analysis or media valuation.
Awesome. So Ben, I'm going to go back to you. So I remember at the conference you had all these data, right, stats on the screen. It was blowing my mind a little bit. So tell me some of the stuff that you unearthed in your research that benefits your particular clients.
Yeah, I mean that can mean a lot of different things, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think we've kind of all identified that already. I mean, I do have some kind of stats like happy to share, and kind of diversity inclusion is a big hot topic in gaming and esports right now, and in kind of all industries, frankly. So pulling insights from this massive database that we've accumulated from these 18 million people that are engaged with YouGov surveys globally, about 4 million in the US. We asked them all sorts of things: the brands they buy, the types of sports they follow, down to the teams they follow, different esports leagues and games they play. And then also their attitudes and their behaviors, their consumer behaviors. How frequently do they buy certain products? How much do they spend in various categories? And all these things you can layer together. And then attitudes and lifestyle interests, I think, is where things get really interesting, going to Bobby's point about telling a compelling story. So we did a paper we ran with Evil Geniuses in partnership a couple months ago around diversity inclusion, and pulled out some insights like, a majority of gamers, 60%, start gaming before the age of 12. 2/3 of them are, we found kind of overall the audience is very inclusive, but we all know that there is toxicity in the gaming space. That's kind of a known fact, and we see it in Twitch forums and over the web. But brands are becoming really awake to that and looking at ways to combat that. So the first step, though, is to understand what is the incidence of that type of behavior. So we found that people in gaming are very inclusive. 77% agree they like to surround themselves with diverse cultures and ideas. 54% would accept that there are more than two genders, or feel that people should accept that there are more than two genders. 67% support gay marriage. And then when asked who is responsible to create more inclusive environment in gaming, they said things like streamers and personalities are really number one to helping to forge a healthier environment. So those are types of insights where you're really going to the audience themselves and asking them, what's your opinion? And then our methodology and reason you can kind of trust those stats is, given the scale of our panel, we can weight that to be nationally representative. So it's not just it's black box analysis. It's not just the first 1,000 people that fill out a survey and then we deduce that represents everybody. There's a lot of heavy lifting and weighting that goes into the final results.
I want to come back to you. I want to stick with you for a second, Ben, because you were mentioning all this great data, right? Because you're polling all these people. So let's say diversity and inclusion, for example. So we know that this is how people feel about this particular topic. Then who does that information benefit? In other words, how does that tie into, who does it benefit?
Yeah,
Say, let's say that particular information.
At the end of the day, I think it benefits the audience. But as far as who it benefits from a business perspective,
yes,
it benefits the team, and it benefits their brand sponsors to say, we have taken a touch point on how the audience feels about diversity inclusion right now. We've also painted a profile for, what their attitudes are as it relates to, inclusivity, for instance. So, if I'm in the team side, I can go to a brand and say, we know that one of your brand pillars is also inclusivity. We align with you on that. Let's help to create a program that's super engaging with this audience that we have access to, my esports fans, who are also looking to have a world that's more inclusive, as pointed out in this data. And let's design a program that aligns with their wants and their needs. And then we can dig deeper into the research into how to bring that to life in a way that's going to be most sticky with the audience.
I'm loving that. That's kind of what I was trying to get to, that piece in the marketing, in people's marketing plans, right? And because I thought, okay, so then you then share the data? Like, so does a team have this data? I mean, you guys have this data, but do you share that with the teams? Like, is it team specific? Are you running or just gamers? Period. Just
across the gambit. I mean, we're measuring all consumers, whether they're as far away from esports as possible, whether they've never touched a video game in their life, whether they're diehard, NFL fans, or very far from it. So everyone under the sun we capture, and then the data is being used by agencies, media companies, brands, teams, leagues. We are an international firm, and we have very strong reach into all of those pillars within and without the gaming.
Awesome. Now, before I go to Alexis, I just wanted to invite the audience. If you have a question, I know some of you are on Facebook. Please put your question in the chat for Bobby or Ben or Alexis for the entire panel. Put your questions in. We'd like to ask them some questions from the audience as well. Alexis, do you want to follow on with anything that Ben says, or should I give you a different question?
No, definitely. So to Ben's point, just first on the diversity and inclusion, just in women in esports, like I believe it was 2 weeks ago, G2 Esports, they announced like their first female Valorant team. So you're seeing, again, more female teams, more of a presence, just to kind of make that note. But as we kind of talk again about the brand's sponsorship piece with these organizations and teams, it's again aligning with a team's value, with a brand value, and then wanting to then be able to track that exposure. And especially with teams, what we're seeing is, there's traditional sports like a football, like a soccer, and they're taking what esports is doing, but also esports is taking what traditional sports are doing. For instance, football does a lot of different like game day graphics that are sponsored by a specific brand. Another thing is keys to the game, and they'll have a car sponsor. They'll have an official travel sponsor, and they will do content around that. We're seeing esports clubs do that, whereas often they will kind of place digital overlays on content on social. They're now being more deliberate about content they're putting out there. So they may have a game graphic and it will be sponsored maybe by their front of kit, or they'll have a beverage sponsor and it'll be focused on a specific content series. Birthday graphics, which will be sponsored maybe by like a candy or ice cream company. So again, being more deliberate about the content they're putting out there and the brand that they're tying themselves to.
Interesting. Awesome. All right. So, okay. Did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean,
Bobby?
Alexis touched on one of my favorite things about working in this industry, and I know this is a little off topic, but esports and really gamers in general have always been very early adopters of technology. And so what you'll find is that something might happen in gaming, and then you'll look at somewhere else in entertainment or sports, and you'll be like, "Huh, that looks familiar." And this has been happening forever. So my favorite example of this is we've all watched football games, right? And you actually hear the quarterbacks go like, 22 Omaha set hike. That actually came from the video game world first. So in one of the earliest editions of Madden, they put in kind of this like field mic where you could hear the quarterbacks or players kind of hike the ball or make noises. And then NBC, CBS, Fox were watching these games take off and become more and more popular. And they're like, huh, that's really cool. Like, why aren't we miking the quarterbacks? Why aren't we miking the field? And so you kind of had this back and forth where now even the NFL is on Twitch, attracting like an average minute audience of around 60,000 viewers, which fine is not 20 million or 10 million for a Sunday night football game, but that's still substantial when you think about who the audience is that you're watching, and then also the ability to the audience to like engage and kind of bet on who's going to win, who's going to lose. So I think it's a great point, Alexis.
Yes. So is there an ideal client for all, for each of you, or like you guys keep saying teams, so is there a specific client that you guys cater to, or who's your ideal client?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think what speaking of StreamHatch, I'm sure this would align with YouGov and Blinkfire, but something that has worked really well for us, and I think benefits the industry, is where StreamHatchet works well is like having consistency in reporting. So it's very hard, especially with Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, all of these different touch points being part of the ecosystem for like a publisher, a brand, and a team to pull the same report across all of that. So you might have a report from one agency or from one property that says, okay, there's 5 million impressions. The team is pulling it a different way and saying there's 4 million impressions. I mean, the brand is using some outside agency and getting 2 million impressions. So that creates a big problem in measurement because it's like, what's the number? Who
Right.
has the real number?
What's real? Right.
So what works well for Stream Hatchet and what we've developed pretty comprehensively is our esports database, where we're looking at hundreds of events that are happening year round, and we're able to work with video game publishers or tournament operators who are primarily putting on this. And then we can help touch all these different points and be like, okay, take a breath. Here are the numbers. These are the official numbers. It's not, we're not over counting it because we think these channels might have co-streamed the game, or we think these channels didn't. Like, these are the official numbers, and then we're able to help really do that auditing process, which is a really boring part of kind of this research and reporting aspect. But doing that audit process removes all that smoke and mirrors and just allows publishers to go, okay, or teams or whoever it is to go, okay, here's my value. Here's what my value is in comparison. Here's what we think is a good sponsorship package for you. Ben and Alexis, I'm sure, auditing and kind of doing that valuation, especially for you, Alexis, is a challenge, but a worthwhile one.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, go ahead, Alexis. And before I go to Alexis, real quick, I just want to remind the audience again, please, if you have any questions for this expert panel, I saw other people jumping on Facebook. Please put your questions for the panelists in the feed so we can ask them before we sign off. So would love to hear your questions for this amazing research panel as I'm learning as they're talking. Go ahead, Alexis.
Yeah, I know, to Bobby's point, again, just the valuation piece is super important, not only for teams we work with, but brands we work with too, because brands will have multiple partnerships and they will want to track, how is Team Liquid doing? How is my G2 Esports sponsorship doing? And they want to track it in one place. And then that's what we offer. And again, on the team side, they'll have multiple partners, and it's, okay, how did, our beer brand, or how did Monster Energy perform last weekend at an event? We can go into the platform, we can pull a report and send it off to our sponsors so they know, we're hitting specific KPIs for them, or maybe we need to change an activation. And again, within esports, it's super important because you've got the image side of it, but then you've got the video piece. And that video piece goes across YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, and it's understanding the time frame and when sponsors are being put on the video, so you can make sure they're visible, not only throughout a Twitch stream, but also during a short clip on TikTok or Instagram, those platforms where more fans and audiences are going to watch it.
Seems like a lot of precision involved in that, right? Even when you mention what time do you put the sponsors on so they get the maximum visibility, it's like a lot of precision involved with that. That's amazing. Ben?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer for me is, my ideal client, YouGov's ideal client, can be anyone who has budget for best-in-class research. Our tools are broad enough that they can be taken from any angle, whether you're brand side, team side, publisher side, and a bunch of different kind of goals that you could be looking to solve for, and we'll generally have a solution. And if we don't, like certain things like digital analytics and valuation, well, we get to partner with companies, like Stream Hatchet and Blinkfire on things like that are, just outside our wheelhouse. And often the marriage of those is a really beautiful thing and delivers a lot of value back to our shared client.
I like the fact that you guys are kind of cohesive, I like it's really beautiful to see. It's not really competitors. You guys are pulling research, but you guys have different pieces and it just all kind of like really works together. So we have a question from Carol. Hi, Carol. Carol was one of our sponsors from Chiron at our last conference. So she said, here at Chiron, we are working on edge technology for streaming, empowering the end user to see content as they wish. So, for example, watching an event, the viewer could choose a player cam and screen that they want to watch, or they could choose to see or not see replays or player data. Really, anything. Do you see any potential here for gathering data or leveraging sponsorships? I am just thinking through how people could use our product, and I think it was
Co-streaming.
Yeah,
Great question.
Great.
Yeah,
Okay.
so something that like an emerging trend that I think we've all seen is this trend of co-streaming and decentralization. So, and it's starting to kind of happen in traditional sports as well. So I think a couple weeks ago you had the Monday Night Football game where you could kind of watch two feeds, right? You watch a standard ESPN feed with Booger and all that great stuff, or you could watch the Manning brothers watch the game and react to what was happening. This is like what's been happening in esports forever, and it's blown up where now if you look at a tournament like Valorant, more of their audience, or Fortnite really was the one that pioneered this, more of the audience is watching through these kind of what we call UGC streams, user generated content streams, versus the premium broadcast. So with a tool like Chiron, absolutely, right? It's really important to give those audience members the ability to choose how they want to watch their content. Not everyone's going to be such a hardcore fan where they want play-by-play and data and all these player stats. Someone's going to want someone funny or someone maybe a little more timid, right? People want different perspectives. So for what's important for a property like this is, okay, how do you value co-streaming versus a premium broadcast? You know, should Shroud watching Valorant Mastered, should his stream be valued the same way as the premium broadcast where there's a lot more space and control to put different ad placements? You know, Ben and Alexis, I don't know if you want to expand on that, but obviously there are avenues for ambush marketing in there as well.
Yeah.
Before Ben speaks, so Carol, Bobby just kind of gave an answer. So if you have a follow on or need clarification, please put your comments in the feed. So Ben's going to attempt to answer your question as well.
I don't have much to add. Only a comment that it gets tricky, right? Because when the brand has less control over where their brand is showing up, there's brand safety concerns. And so I know that, Stream Hatchet and I'm sure Blinkfire as well, and other companies out there are looking at more than just impressions and number of eyeballs on this fractured collection of screens or feeds, if you will, but also context to how a brand is being presented on each one of those, because it could be a slightly different point of view. So yeah, from our angle, we would do more kind of ask the consumer, are you seeking out premium broadcast from the actual event host, or more likely are you going through co-streams? And so that kind of at a higher level understanding and market sizing the behavior is where I think we would come in.
Okay. Alexis, you want to add anything, or you think they've covered it?
No, they covered it.
Okay.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Can we touch a little bit with you, Alex? Can we touch a little bit about influencer marketing? I'd love to hear. We hear so much about influencer marketing, and can you speak to that for us?
Yeah, definitely. So to Bobby and Ben's points of like how esports has kind of been ahead of the fold with influencer marketing as well, you're seeing, not just you're seeing influencers, but also these top streamers partner with teams to get their brand out there. And as they're doing that, they're also giving exposure to their sponsors. So again, partnering with like Nick Merckx, for instance, he's partnering with a bunch of teams. He also partners with some media companies to be able to promote certain brands that they have. So it's super smart to kind of be tapping into this esports influencer. And then on top of that, you're seeing that then happening in traditional sports as well. And again, an influencer, to me, they're a little more authentic, and I know brands want that, and they're able to say and wear specific brands' values, and that's almost a better way than, again, running a paid ad or doing something that doesn't feel as like real and have that value behind it.
I think I mentioned to you guys before that when I saw Ralph Lauren, right, using a gamer or a streamer, I wasn't quite sure if it was a gamer or a streamer. When I saw a Ralph Lauren ad with this person from the industry, from the gaming industry, on a horse, this is your typical polo, I thought, wow,
Yep.
this is
Yeah.
really unbelievable. This is a real merger of traditional, advertisers really seeing the opportunities, right, in this industry. And from what you guys are saying, the data is holding that up, right? There's so many eyeballs over there that
Yeah.
it's so important. So I mean,
so that was I think that was G2 Esports with Reckless. And so one of the reasons that you have a lot of luxury brands, especially like Balenciaga did something with
Louis
Fortnite.
Vuitton might
Louis
have
Vuitton.
just,
Louis Vuitton has the actually trophy case that they've built around League of Legends Worlds. The reason that you have a lot of luxury brands activating is, and Ben will tell you all about this, is like if you look at gamers as consumers, you'll find a couple different things. So one, they typically have higher income than the average consumer, because if you think about kind of the profile, you're talking about like engineers, they build their own computers. So that's one aspect. And then another aspect is they're typically willing to spend more on products that are marketed to them, and they're very pro advertising. They want esports to be accepted and be part of mainstream culture. Like, I can't believe we're still battling this, but there's this big misconception that gamers are kind of headset lights in the basement. Like, everybody's a gamer, right? Like, everybody's played Candy Crush, everyone's played Farmville, right? You're technically a gamer. So really what we're seeing more and more of, especially with creators and this creator economy explosion that we're all in right now, is gaming and pop culture are just becoming synonymous.
Bobby, honestly, I'm one of those people who would have thought gamers and luxury brand, I can't see the connection. But when you said Candy Crush, that opened the field really wide, because I know a lot of my family members who would never call themselves a gamer, they really are playing that a lot, right? So you're
it's
right.
One of the top games on Facebook right now, actually. Candy Crush has really blown up on Facebook, and I think
it's actually called Meta now, Bobby.
Sorry.
Yes. Ben will speak to the metaverse.
Facebook, a Meta company. Yes.
Ben will answer the question about the data for the luxury, which it did surprise me, Bobby, when you mentioned that gamers, tend to buy luxury brands. That did surprise me. So Ben can speak to that, and then Ben can also speak to the metaverse.
Well, maybe if I don't know that we have time for that, we'll see.
That's true. We'll see.
I do have some fun stats to kind of back up, Bobby and Alexis were sharing. So, among League of Legends fans specifically, compared to the general population, they are more than twice as likely to agree to the statement that they like to stand out. They are 93% more likely to agree that they tend to choose premium products and services.
Wow.
And then, and our data can go in deeper to, are they in the market for a luxury handbag or, whatever it might be, and their sentiment towards, various luxury brands. And the same is true with them having more money to spend, and generally than their cohorts of their similar age. If you look at all 18 to 34-year-olds and then cut out just esports fans compared to them, they do tend to skew towards having higher incomes and more money in their wallets. And there was one other thing I wanted to share, but now it's escaping me. But there's all sorts of stats. Oh, gaming influencers. Sorry, going back to that. I will just ask everyone, or recommend, YouGov just put out a free report on gaming influencers. Part 1 out of 3 is available now. I think ESTA has shared it. It's also on our site. But fun stats, gaming influencers are followed by 21% of all 18 to 24-year-olds worldwide.
Wow.
1 in 5. 1 in 5 of all of the next generation of consumers. And we're not even talking about teens, where I'm certain it's even more. In fact, it's 2/3.
Interesting.
1 in 5, 18 to 24-year-olds are gaming influencers is one way to reach them. Among men, gaming influencers are top type of influencer they're following. So it's really, influencers is a massive trend. Gaming influencers is driving that a lot, especially among young men.
Wow, that is really interesting. Wow. So I hope I hope advertisers or agencies are hearing that, because that's really, really interesting. I'm going to ask one last question before I have you guys do your closing comments. But what's the data? What is there anything that you guys can share with us on women in esports? Just general, just real quick. Any data showing any trends, whatever?
You're asking Ben the best question. Ben actually has a slide on that.
Oh man, I didn't have that slide ready to go though.
I can give you the number if you need it.
Do it, man. If you got the YouGov stats,
go ahead, Bobby. Take it over, Bobby.
It's actually the YouGov and Stream Hatchet partnered stats. Funny enough, but I think the thing that blows us away is we did a co-report together. It's great. You should go read it. Ben just shared some information on it, but I think of the top 100 streamers on Twitch, right?
Yeah.
5 are female.
Ooh.
95 are male. And then 99% or 98% of like the watch time that those streamers collectively generate is going towards male audiences. So there's a huge gap. If you look at broader sports media, it's kind of the same thing where like 95% of just general media coverage, like sports media, goes towards male sports, only 5%. What I think we need to do, although I'm not an expert, is we as industry need to start driving more awareness towards these female streamers, and hopefully that will start to pivot. There are some really great female streamers that are creating really good content right now. It's just they need some attention.
Boy, Bobby, that's heartbreaking. Those statistics are heartbreaking. And so we have work to do as an industry, right? With the female women in gaming, that is just heartbreaking. But it's what the data shows, right? And that's the reason why you guys exist, because it shows where we need to improve. It shows, it's just good information to make decisions.
I'd say it shows your opportunity too.
Yes, it does. It does. It does.
It's a baseline statistic that is not where we as an industry or culture would like it to be.
Right.
But more and more brands are aware of that. And as I think the Evil Geniuses D&I report suggests, it's on everyone in the industry. It's on streamers and personalities. It's on Twitch and the services that people are going to digest this content. It's on the leagues and teams, and it's also on the game publishers too, to give equal representation to women in a way that's not biased within the games themselves. So it's a cultural systemic issue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I do like what you said, though, Ben. I like the word that you used. It was more positive. You said it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not where we need to. It's not where we should be or want to be, but it's an opportunity. Those numbers that Bobby quoted are terrible, but there's room. There's a lot of room. Alexis, as the woman in gaming here, what's your last point on that?
No, I mean, again, I do think there's opportunity for brands to kind of tap into more females and for them to be able to drive home like empowering messages. And to that point, there's many females who are streaming who are also on the entrepreneurial side, who are building they're not only partnering with brands, but they're also building their own brand and creating products and merchandise. So they're doing really creative things. They just need to be given, again, more of a voice and more of a platform to continue to grow.
The question on the screen is the imbalance due to lack of participation more than bias? It's a question for you guys. You probably won't have the real answer, but what are your thoughts on that question from Fred? Is it imbalance due to lack of participation from female gamers, or is it bias? What is it?
I would say no. And, Ben, I think I've seen a stat from YouGov of like 40%, probably even more, going back to that casual gamer point where everyone's a gamer, is like, 50% of the population roughly is female. I think I've seen stats from YouGov that say 40% of gamers in their panel are female. So I think it comes back to that. It's not a lack of participation. It's not that there's not eyeballs there. there's a huge opportunity for brands to go and activate. And you know, going back to my storytelling piece, is like, data is great, but it's not the only thing that you should use in telling that story. There's context around that. So
Mhm.
maybe you don't want to get, the top guy on Twitch. Maybe Nick Merckx, as great as he is and he's managed well, maybe he's not the best person for your campaign. Maybe you should be working with Pokimane or some of these VTubers that have really blown up, because you're going to help them reach number one by building this community around them and giving them investment to really grow their content. I don't know if Alexis and
Yeah.
Ben
Yeah.
have other thoughts on that.
I think also too, this is something, again, we saw this during the lockdown where traditional athletes were going on Twitch and doing streams, playing soccer players, playing FIFA. I think there's an opportunity there, especially for female athletes who have a really big presence, to do maybe some type of partnership with other like female esports streamers. And tennis, you get Serena Williams on there. Golf, like there are a lot of opportunities to sort of merge the two. So where I watch, you watch traditional sports, but you're like, oh, Serena's going to stream with this esports influencer, you might get kind of that convergence of women going, okay, this is interesting, I want to see more of it.
I
So
agree.
again, that's again to Ben's point of, there is so much opportunity
Yeah,
and so many different ways that we can engage.
that's a great point.
Yeah.
Great point. Lots of opportunities there. Somebody with
This-
vision need to take it to the next level. Ben, yes.
Yeah. Only thing I would add is I think the trend in participation, but even more so the trend in interest is headed this direction in the favor of inclusivity. I think that there's that stat of like, yes, 60% of all adults are gamers, but to the point that Bobby made so accurately, quoting YouGov data, and thank you, is that like 40% of them are mobile gamers. But when you look at that across age groups, that starts to look different, and younger people are engaging more with kind of PC and console games, more engaged, and they identify more as kind of mid-core or hardcore gamers than older people. It's almost a generational trend, and then that continues into teenagers, and we see that there's less of a difference between male, female, and interest in gaming. And as we see gaming kind of permeating more and more into pop culture and media entertainment broadly, that's just going to continue to accelerate. So I think that the imbalance of participation, whether they're a gamer, is a different thing than whether they're interested in gaming in esports content or streamers around it. And so two different trends to follow.
I agree. As Megan says, Megan, a woman in esports, our founder here at ESTA, says great to have a baseline, so much opportunities. And it's an opportunity for us, even at ESTA too, to bring attention to this and awareness to this, to this issue. And Fred asked a good question. And I think it was a really honest question, lack of participation. I don't think so. My granddaughter she's 5. She's a gamer. And my daughter is a ridiculous gamer. So I don't think it's lack of participation at all. It's probably lack of awareness. It's probably, I don't know. There are opportunities. We leave it at that. There are opportunities for sponsors and for others to actually help to bring attention and awareness to our female gamers by really, spending some of that money with them and helping them to get on that front stage, I think. And I loved Alexa's idea about, when you mentioned about, traditional sports people like Serena and others, finding ways to marry, finding ways to collab, to bring eyeballs, to get cross interest. It's a really cool idea. So I'm going to give you guys a minute each to just summarize, and speak to your ideal person as we close out today. Really, thank you guys for being here. Great information. I learned some stuff today. And I'm hoping that our audience have learned as well. And even as this stays on the air, so on social media, that as folks rewatch, that we've already put you guys' contact information in the feed, that they'll reach out to you, because you guys certainly have a lot to add to, to this conversation, to people's decision making processes. I mean, it's just valuable. I mean, it's just really the other side of it all. It's just so good to know that this information exists, and I could see why, sponsors would need this information. I could see why the teams would need, the research done, so they even have an idea of how they're doing, right? Of who's participating, who's watching. It's just great all around. So I just really thank you guys for the value that you bring to the industry. So Ben, why don't we start with you? And then I'm going to Alexis and then Bobby will close. Your 1 minute wrap up.
I'll just say, look, I love talking about research, and I think it's super interesting. And I've been very fortunate to align my passion for gaming and pop culture trends with my career in this way. And if that interests anyone watching and you'd want to chat about it, look me up on LinkedIn. It's just Ben Pero, 7 letters. And I'd be happy to talk sometime.
And we've linked Ben's information in the comments. So Alexis as well, and Bobby, we've linked their LinkedIn information is already there. So please follow each person here for just further information. Go ahead, Alexis.
Yeah, kind of echoing Ben, I'm super grateful I love marketing and the content creation piece, and super grateful to be working in not only traditional sports, but also esports with Blinkfire. And, if anyone is interested, again, in not only being a team, but also a brand and being able to track and value your exposure, or you're an athlete, influencer, or even an agency, happy to talk more. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Bobby?
Keep it short and sweet. If you want to talk about doing something cool and gaming and esports and need some data to justify that or justify something you've done, come chat with me. And then if you ever want to play League of Legends and have a good or bad time, you can look me up on LinkedIn too.
And I'd be amiss if I didn't, plug ESTA, because the 3 of you are members of ESTA, and we so value your membership and the data that you and you all provide to us and to our members. And this is a members only for the most part live. And so we just invite you, if you're watching and if you're not a member of the Esports Trade Association, we have links in the comments and how you can be involved. This is a kind of resource that we have at our disposal, and the kind of talent and folks that we have on our team who are members that you get to network with. You get to tap into some of their knowledge. So we, again, invite you to become a member if you're not a member. And thank you again, Ben, Alexis, and Bobby, for being here, for sharing your knowledge, and for all that you do to support the mission and the vision of the Esports Trade Association. Take care, and we'll say bye to everyone.
Thank you, Sharon. Good seeing you guys.
Thanks, Sharon.
Bye.
Bye.
You're welcome. Bye.